Hello and welcome to the inaugural webinar from CRS. My name is Paul Hodgson and today we're joined by Val Sullivan, the product manager for the CRS Compass solution, and Chabu from Christians Against Poverty. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. Hello everyone.
Today's webinar will last approximately 30 minutes and there will be time to ask questions. To do this, there's a text box on the right of your screen. If it doesn't appear, you should see a red arrow. If you click that arrow, the text area will then appear for you. Please type your questions in and we'll answer them at the end of this webinar. And following the webinar, we'll be making it available on our website and we'll also email you a link to it. At this point, I'll hand you over to Val, who will take you through CRS Compass. Val?
Thank you, Paul. Okay, before we begin, just some information on format and timings. I'm about to go through a series of slides on our subject, discussing each one in turn with some input from my CAP colleague, Chabu. I anticipate that the webinar will last approximately half an hour. As Paul has already stated, there will be a Q&A session at the end as an opportunity for you to air any opinions or ask any questions. I would therefore encourage you to type in your question throughout the webinar for us to address at the end. For those of you who have been following us on LinkedIn, you will see that over the course of the last few weeks we've been publishing a series of articles all around the vulnerable debtor, how to manage them effectively and what this could mean for you as a business. This webinar will cover some of the issues again in what we feel is a very topical subject at this present time. In addition to this, I will also be introducing our new service, CRS Compass, and what this could mean for you as a business. But before I do that, first of all, some revealing statistics for you. 800,000 people in the UK are living with varying degrees of dementia, and this is expected to double over the next 40 years. That comes from Age UK 2013. 70% of debt advice clients were prescribed medication from their GP to help them cope with debt-related mental health difficulty. There are currently 1.4 million people aged over 85 in the UK. This figure is estimated to triple over the next 30 years. That's come from Age UK 2013. By 2020, half the population can expect to be diagnosed with cancer at some point in their lives. That's come from Macmillan 2014. 21 million people in Britain are struggling with their bills, and it is estimated that over 1.4 million people urgently need advice but aren't getting it. And that statistics come from Step Change 2015. Just under half of adults have a numeracy attainment age of 11 or below. That's come from the Department for Business Innovation and Skills. And almost half of adults do not have enough savings to cover an unexpected cost of £300. That's from the Money Advice Service. 70% are more likely to develop a mental health issue if they find themselves struggling in debt. And unfortunately, 33% have attempted to contemplate suicide as a result of their debt. Quite shocking figures, I would think you would agree. So, how can we recognise the vulnerable debtor? Typically, debtors who aren't paying their debt back fall into two categories: those who won't pay and those who can't pay. It is those who can't pay either through mental illness or through financial hardship that we consider to be the vulnerable debtor. It is with this group of people that businesses within the credit industry have an extra duty of care. Indeed, vulnerability is a hot topic in the financial services sector at the moment, and our governing body, the Financial Conduct Authority, has challenged all firms to review their approach to consumer vulnerability, a review which can only have a positive impact on the industry, but which we believe for some businesses have not considered, let alone understood, the true impact of getting this right in terms of cost and resource. This is one of the things that the webinar will discuss later. But firstly, before we do that, I wonder if Chabu from CAP has anything further to add about the type of debtor that CAP come across that would be considered as vulnerable.
Yeah, we do. Again, thank you, CRS, for having CAP here today. For Christians Against Poverty, we made the decision quite a while ago to treat every single person who is in financial hardship. We would class them as being vulnerable at some stage, and very much for us. When we look at different types of debtors, vulnerability is something that can be stepped in and out of. If you think of it can happen to any single one of us. There's someone who I know at the moment who's going through a lot. Their husband has cancer, and they're someone who are really adequate to deal with finances, but for this specific period of life, they would be classed as vulnerable. Within my own family, kind of, we've had the same when my dad had health problems, that whilst, they may have been savvy enough to deal with their finances, for a brief period of time, they were vulnerable. So vulnerability, very much for Christians Against Poverty, and I think we can agree for all of us, is something that we can all dip in and out of. So for us at CAP, using that as our baseline kind of definition, our thoughts and questions are then, how can our processes support those people who are vulnerable at any single point of the journey that they are with Christians Against Poverty? So right at the start, traditionally, historically, the vulnerability may be very different. But again, at the start, how can our processes enable the most vulnerable to access our service and just make it as easy as possible for them? And then later on, again, do some of our clients need that breathing space? Are our processes set up to make sure that we are asking the rest of the industry for breathing space, because that's what they need because of the vulnerability for that bit of time?
Okay, thank you, Chabu, for that. Okay, so we've established what the vulnerable debtor is. Let's move on. However, much stigma and embarrassment comes from people who are in financial hardship, and not all would be ready to admit this openly. It's therefore often down to our organisations to be able to spot this for themselves. So how do we recognise the vulnerable debtor? One way is to train frontline agents to recognise these customers so processes can be adapted going forward. Questioning and listening is a good place to start. Effective questioning. We understand that every customer's circumstances are different, and by asking open questions we get a full understanding of individual needs. If you ask ineffective questions such as, can you pay in full? The answer will simply yes or no, whereas if you ask an effective question such as, what are your current financial circumstances and how will these affect repayment of this account, the customer has to explain their current circumstances in more detail, which is more likely to lead to an affordable repayment plan or triggers which uncover something more underlying. Effective listening. Pause. Triggers can be picked up from listening to words that customers use and even their tone, highlighting things that aren't quite right. Coupled with effective questioning, the agents can gauge a firm understanding of the customer's situation and events that may have led to these circumstances. Warning signs which we encourage our agents to flag include mentions of losing someone close, a relationship breakdown, a change of job, unexpected news, or even something more subtle, such as repeated questions from the customer, a sense of confusion, stuttering, or defensive dialogue. It would be really interesting again to learn if CAP has any other different ways to spot the vulnerable debtor.
For us, spotting the vulnerable debtor, this is always kind of a hot question in the industry. How do you spot someone who has some form of vulnerability? And for us, really, it begins kind of for Christians Against Poverty. Our service is, we have the face-to-face element of our service, but we'll also speak to our clients over the phone. So for us, when we are first speaking to our clients over the phone, just to give you a quick statistic, 33% of our clients may have waited 3 or more years before they call CAP. So they will have carried this burden of kind of debts and everything that debt kind of creates with them when they first call us. So for us, the biggest thing at the start is building trust. Building trust. How can we build up trust and that rapport with our clients over the phone? Once we've established that trust, again, like kind of Val was saying, it's again about asking the right type of questions. And we are just really prompted by the clients. If they say that they've been feeling low, actually then what does that lead to? Asking kind of the client, have you spoken to anyone? Have you spoken to a doctor? Have you seen a GP? So for everything that they say, trying to kind of pick up on them. Often we'll talk about, well, what are the different triggers? And really the whole conversation, in a whole conversation with a client, there will be so many different triggers that it's really up to, for Christians Against Poverty, our call handlers will try and pick on the majority of what they say in order that we can then provide kind of adequate support for them later on. Again, as our service is also face-to-face, we'll be going into clients' homes. So as we're going in, it's a great opportunity to see firsthand, well, what are the needs? What are the needs? Commonly, we're finding that food is something that a lot of our clients don't have. So having a look, something so simple. Have you been offered tea? Have you been offered biscuits? Having that lead into kind of a question, and finally, just a great thing that Christians Against Poverty have done, and we're trying to build on more and more, is our call listening and our auditing. Actually, when we are looking back and looking over calls, conversationally, are there triggers that may have been missed out that we can kind of provide a bit more training for the call handlers, so that next time they're able to pick on those specific triggers that another client might kind of present when they're on the phone. So they're some of the main things that we would be doing when we're on the phone to our clients.
Okay, so carrying on, we just heard from Chabu there, Christians Against Poverty. Okay, so moving on. As quoted by the FCA earlier, businesses in our industry are now duty bound to ensure that once this group of people are spotted, measures are taken to ensure that the approach to them is the right one. As a business, are you absolutely sure that you are ticking the right boxes, and in doing so are doing this in a TCF and compliant way? We found that many of our clients do not have these processes in place, albeit understandably due to a focus on their normal core business activities. So what we've looked at, here are some top tips we feel are prudent for getting the compliance bit right. Training. Train frontline staff to identify warnings. This is particularly important as someone vulnerable can quite easily slip through the net if frontline specialist staff aren't appropriately trained. If you don't have the skills or resource to train internally, external courses are available from various charities such as the Samaritans, for example. Signposting. Only companies with the correct FCA licence are allowed to give out advice to customers on their finances, which means that any customer recognised by staff as being unable to pay needs to be transferred to an authorised debt management agency or charity, such as Christians Against Poverty, or indeed Step Change. Ring fencing, procedural ring fencing. Vulnerable customers need to be taken out of regular processes and placed into their own well-construed procedure to avoid further detriment. You may already have a process to delay action on accounts to apply breathing space rules, but do you then have further processes to effectively manage debt management plans to ensure that correspondence is going to the debt management agencies or charities rather than to customers? Or, to complicate matters further, the correct processes in place to action customer managed debt management plans. Dedicated team. Leading on from the procedural ring fencing, what about people ring fencing? In our business, our collection agents require a different set of skills and consequently training than the members of our vulnerable customer team. Similarly, someone who is trained to sell loans and insurance or to provide customer service duties isn't going to be as affected as a dedicated resource. Backlogs. Changing workflow processes can mean that accounts get set in the dark abyss on a number of occasions. We've had clients coming to us with a large backlog of accounts whereby nothing has happened to them after being ended, for example, allowing for breathing space. This is potentially an enormous amount of lost revenue per month. Can you ensure that your collection system is reactive to this kind of situation? We know that a solution to these commercial issues need to be addressed from the standpoint of cost control, but further to assisting non-compliance teams to ensure their businesses remain compliant and not under the microscope of the FCA. Just read the current press witness some businesses falling foul of poor compliance and TCF policies woefully lacking. So, what actually happens when we do spot a vulnerable debtor? What happens next? It's our belief that by putting individual customer circumstances first is one of the most important facets of effective and compliant debt collection. A debt collection agency that adopts a people-centric approach in its culture and uses it as a platform for training and innovation are the ones who successfully manage vulnerable customers better. The best DCAs are the ones who are able to widen this approach and offer all customers tailor-made solutions to manage the situation that a consumer doesn't want to be in. We need to engage appropriately to help the customer through the journey, whether that is delicately with someone who has mental health issues or by making it easy as possible to transact or correspond with someone who simply doesn't want to or is unable to talk on the phone. Having the right culture ingrained throughout your business, a spotlight firmly on people cannot be underestimated. A people-centric ideology that cascades from directors down through management and agent level is needed to ensure that both clients and their customers receive the best possible service. The majority of the particularly vulnerable customers fall into two categories. those who are severe financial difficulties and those who are suffering from health issues, mental or otherwise. It is important that customer-facing staff are well trained in recognising particularly vulnerable customers to allow automated processes to take place, show empathy and provide guidance without giving advice. External trainings such as the Mental Health Foundation offer a number of high-quality courses, and continuous internal workshops ensure that agents are well trained in handling these instances. The skills taught and learned are also transferable to other less sensitive calls. Signposting. As a DCO, we would readily signpost any vulnerable debtor in need of assistance to our partners at debt charities such as Step Change and Christians Against Poverty. In some circumstances where appropriate, we may even sign to a fee-charging partner such as Harrington Brooks. However, our preference as a business would always go to the free debt advice charities as aforementioned. Policy. A well-documented and robust policy on dealing with particularly vulnerable customers is essential, not just because of regulatory requirement, but because treating these consumers sensitively and with care is important to protect your brand, your client's brand and the customers themselves. It is for this reason that a well-scripted guidance document is required. This living, breathing document then forms the basis of staff training from new starters through to the longer-serving members of your team. And finally, technology. Technology can play a large part in managing individual circumstances. The tools are now available for customer interaction through modern devices such as smartphones and tablets, and utilised in many other industries, should be embraced by DCAs. Make it easy to pay, make it relevant to lifestyle, and help remove the stigma that being in financial difficulty brings. The web allows endless possibilities in improving customer experience. A good customer website can offer customers the ability to transact and correspond 24/7, provide another way to contact and have helpful tools for people who are both hard of hearing and partially sighted. Perhaps the most important aspect of the majority of customers who use our website is that it allows them to interact without having the perceived stress or embarrassment of having to speak to a debt collection agency. So, we've talked much about spotting and managing the vulnerable debtor, but the bottom line is, what does this really mean to your business in terms of cost? Here are some facts that we at CRS have discovered. The average life cycle of a case is 63 months from setup to paid in full. So that's the average life cycle of a case on a debt management plan. In that life cycle, each case will go through 4 stages, this being setup, account management, payments, and default. The average payment we found of a case on a debt management plan is £4.97. An account will be queried on average 1.4 times during its life cycle. 4% of cases will drop out of payment arrangements and will need a manual review. 23% of cases receive or require an outbound call. 25% of cases receive an annual review and are reviewed 5 times during their life cycle. 10% of cases default monthly. And an average case will default 8.33 times. I wonder if you have considered those statistics as a business. Are they something that you are aware of? Let's translate these into costs for you now. We believe at CRS that the average debt is £315.27. Now, these figures, I must stress, are general, based on CRS's own knowledge of dealing with this process. The cost to your business may be different to this. So we believe an average debt is £315.27 with an average payment of £4.97. We believe the average loaded FTE costs of a team to manage work that's in a debt management plan is £37,500 per annum. If you have a look at the pie chart there, you'll see how the cost relates to the actual 4 stages. So £2.75 for setup, £55.50 for account management, payments at £32.65 and default costing £10.65. So when you actually look at that, an overall total cost to your business for handling a DMA on average is £101.58. Have you realised this? This is how much your business could be spending on dealing with the vulnerable debtor. Have you considered the impact that this process may have on your resource and therefore time and of course your costs? Have you thought that your resource could be better served elsewhere in your business to concentrate on what really brings the money in for you? To quote one of our major clients, "I would love to outsource this work so that the team working on this can go back to working on what they were recruited for." We believe that we here at CRS have developed a solution to this, and so I would therefore like to formally introduce you to CRS Compass. CRS are proud to announce our new service, CRS Compass, the first truly innovative debt collection product for 20 years. As discussed in great detail in this webinar, customers who can't afford to keep up with repayments on their loans or pay their bills are encouraged to seek financial advice for their debt problems. This normally results in them entering a debt management plan managed by debt management agencies or charities, such as Christians Against Poverty. A debt management plan is formed by a process of listing an individual's creditors and then working out an affordable monthly repayments based on income and expenditure. This normally results in an offer being sent to the creditor via post. Commonly, this communication would enter a business usual post process and not be actioned with the priority it warrants. This is where CRS Compass comes in. Our relationships and associations and partnerships with some of the UK's largest debt management agencies and charities, such as Christians Against Poverty as we have here today with us, we are able to effectively take control of this costly and time-consuming process on behalf of our creditors. Ensuring that your customers are happy, you have a controlled process with an audit trail to show regulators, you save on business costs and time to allow you to focus on your core business activities. We take full control of all accounts that fall into the inability to pay category, no matter where they are in the life cycle, from offering breathing space through to repayment offers and collections and fail arrangements. In addition to this, our sophisticated portal allows you, the DMA, to have full access to information on any of your accounts which CRS Compass are dealing with. This can be at a high-level overview to see the number of accounts, paying accounts or defaulted accounts, or at a micro level looking at the specifics of each case at account level. You will also have the ability to upload and download data from our portal, as well as make your own changes to information held on each account. So, to this end, we offer a dedicated team for this purpose. From the partnerships we benefit from with the DMCs, we also have many DPA agreements in place, which makes the exchange of information between us slicker and more efficient. We have the technology to be able to deal with the correspondence en masse and the ability to transfer vulnerable debtors to our partners where appropriate. We believe that we have developed a robust process that allows the creditors confidently to outsource all debts which are on a DMP or have sought the advice of a DMA. We believe that Compass provides a level of control never seen before, and we confidently tick all the compliance boxes. We offer breathing space, we have a hotkey facility to warm transfer any debt seeking advice to our partners at Step Change and Christians Against Poverty. Ultimately, this means for you time-saving service, which is hassle-free, compliant, it's an auditable process, and then we also benefit from the fact that we have a well-established collections department. Should the DMA process fail, the debt could then always move up into the collections process. So finally, if you're interested in finding out more about this for your business, then please contact the Compass team on these numbers below. But actually, what I'd like to do now is, for the final part, is just hand over to Chabu at CAP so that she can tell you a little bit more about his own organisations and how to get in touch with Christians Against Poverty or ask for their services if you are interested.
Brilliant, thank you. For those out there who don't know much about Christians Against Poverty, Christians Against Poverty is a free provide a free face-to-face service. We are so fortunate to go into people's homes. We work by a postcode basis, partnering with 280 centres across the country, delivering the very best. We aim to deliver the very best to the very least. We are a free debt management company who don't just concentrate on just debt management. We are so much more than that. As an organisation, we decided that we don't want to just be talking about about things. We want to be doing. So we've looked into what are the different pathways into poverty, and what are the various services that CAP can provide to help those who are struggling. So as well as the debt management side of the organisation. We also have a CAP Money course, a money management course that's helped over 10,000 people last year. Going back to the basic principles of a jam jar account, helping people to actually proactively manage their money. So instead of then entering financial hardship and contacting CAP, if we can prevent as much of this up front through our money management course, that ultimately will be the success, will be a huge success. Just have a think about this for a second. How many out there for you listening have actually had training on how to manage your finances? I bet there'll be no one out there who has had that, but Christians Against Poverty do provide a free money management course. If you are wanting to kind of find out a bit more about that, all the details are available on our website. Again, looking at the different pathways into poverty, we looked at actually not just those who struggle to kind of budget. There are those who struggle to find a job, who have been unemployed for a large amount of time, maybe not through their own, through a fault of their own, but need kind of help getting back on their feet to find employment again. So we launched CAP Job Clubs, which is an amazing initiative. It's an 8-week course where we will look into some of the basic skills that are needed in order to find employment, whether that's interview skills, whether that again could be how to build their CVs, encouraging businesses like all of you kind of out there to come in and present some of these sessions, to build links with kind of people in the local community, and again do bits which were all part of our corporate social responsibility. Job Clubs has seen some huge amazing successes, and people finding employment who have been out of work for over 2 years, people finding full-time, part-time and voluntary employment. And again, a new initiative that we are currently piloting is our CAP release groups, having a look at actually for those people who struggle with light dependencies, can we put something together, a course together that can help them to put those dependencies behind them. Again, for companies like Christians Against Poverty, a debt management company, there's no point looking at the finances when there's an addiction there. For us, we want to make sure we deal with the root problem, so that when they come to us through our debt management arm, they don't just come and are debt free. They're debt free for the lifetime of them kind of hopefully working with us and after. We did a survey on some of our clients who had left our service after a 6-year period, and we found that 90% of those who were surveyed are still debt free. They're still debt free, taking on board the principles of how to manage their money, properly. As part of the service, people are able to save some small token amounts, and there are people out there who are saving, people out there who are using cash, who are booking holidays, all through kind of the service that Christians Against Poverty provide. So Christians Against Poverty, it's not just debt management. Not just debt management. For those who are interested, we've got our corporate partners open on the 17th of June. We'd love to have as many of you out there as possible. I'm sure I can kind of provide for my email address to be sent out. Absolutely. Somehow.
And CRS are attending. I will be there.
Brilliant. Looking forward to having you there. Where we'll be looking at kind of just how can we make more of a difference with all these clients that we are mutually kind of looking after. So again, thanks for having me here today.
Thank you, Chabu. Thank you for that. Okay, and so this brings us to the end of our webinar. I'd like to thank you for listening. I hope that you found some of the information that we've provided today of interest. And now I'd just like to spend just a little bit of time addressing some of the questions that the audience have raised. So the first question that we've had is from somebody at Payplan, who's asked, how would we deal with somebody that her English is not their first speaking language? And that's a really good question, actually. And how we would go about that is we would always encourage any debtor that came on the phone to us who wasn't able to speak English as their first language to engage a relative or a friend, somebody that could give permission or consent, that they could give consent to talk on their behalf. That would always be our first port of call as that. It'd be interesting to know, actually, Chabu, to put you on the spot here now, how would you deal with that?
Similar as well. Kind of there'll be other organisations out there. There'll be services from local councils and so on, that we'll be able to provide kind of translation service as well. But in our initial call, when we speak to our clients, we'll be trying to establish actually, is there any extra support that they need? So when we first visit them, everything's there to kind of help the visit go as smoothly as possible. When someone is in financial hardship, it's extremely stressful. Debt can be very secondary, so you want to make sure that any other potential barriers are removed as quickly and as swiftly as possible.
Absolutely.
For a good visit and a good start to the service.
Okay, I'm now actually going to hand over to Paul, who is going to talk about any other questions that we've had.
Yes, I've been writing the questions down as they've come through, Chabu. I've actually got one for you.
Great.
And really, it's about what advice would you give to creditors dealing with a debt management company? What are your frustrations, I think, is what they're getting to from the debt management company back to the creditor.
I think we've entered this kind of this wonderful world of the FCA, where hopefully as time goes by and a lot of the DMCs have gone through kind of all that kind of authorization period, that we'll hopefully start to see things kind of get smoother in terms of information being passed back and forth. But for creditors out there, one of the things that we're finding is obviously debt's being moved around in the industry at such a rate. They're being passed and sold and someone else is collecting on their behalf, which again, if you think about it, for us and kind of this industry and the world we're in, it's normal, it's every day, we expect it. But for the average consumer, it can be extremely confusing, unsettling. It's not really clear who owns this debt, is this mine? So I think one of the main things is making sure actually all your basic bits of information, like your reference numbers, like the amount that needs to be paid, are sent to the DMCs as soon as possible, really, so that we can start making those payments for clients who really, for our experiences, for a lot of our clients, want to get out of debt. They want to get out of debt. So as an industry, let's make sure that we're not putting barriers in place that makes it hard for them to kind of get the ball rolling.
Yeah, so I guess in many ways it's a clarity for not only the industry but for the debtor and the creditor too. And I think the fewer the people are actually interacting, the better for you, really, I guess.
Or somehow a means and a method through which information can be sent back and forth as soon as possible. I don't know what that looks like. I know kind of organisations such as MAS will have ideas around this, but just something that makes that transfer and sending of information back and forth as quickly and as swiftly as possible. I think another thing really that we're finding, which is really topical, is around breathing space. Breathing space traditionally is given at the start of the debtor working with an organisation, that 30-day grace period. But we're finding actually that different amounts of breathing space are needed during kind of that journey of a debt. So whether it's at the start, it could be at the start, it could be at the end, it could be in the middle. But do organisations have that ability to give that breathing space? Because actually the reasons a customer could need that breathing space is because of a vulnerability. At CAP, we've got what's known as what we call internally a resolutions team. So we've identified 22 different categories where they just don't fit into the normal mold. So looking actually, is there, for some of our clients, they're going through things like a divorce, a really, really kind of, it could be a messy divorce. It could be something where actually that would cause traditionally a vulnerability. So actually, is the breathing space being given to these clients in order to enable them to go through the divorce? And again, for us, just making sure we'll provide that evidence. Evidence is the key.
Yes,
it helps kind of sift between those who are really wanting to work with you, and obviously those who may not be kind of wanting to work and engage.
Great, thank you. One for you, Val. One of the questions was asked is, how is CRS organised to handle, I beg your pardon, vulnerable debtor calls?
Okay, so we obviously have our main collections floor, which most of our inbound call traffic comes into, but the people on the collections floor are trained to if they spot a vulnerable debtor, or indeed take a call from a DMC or someone that has sought the advice of a DMC, to transfer the call down to my team, and we are the Compass team. The Compass team also has its own inbound lines as well, which we advertise to our partners, the DMCs. So it's a dedicated unit. It's away from the collections floor. We're on a separate floor, we're downstairs, and the idea is that we will take a much softer customer service approach to this type of debtor than perhaps maybe they would do on the collections floor.
Well, actually, going on from there, the other question that kind of links with what you've just said is, how do we at CRS ensure, what does it say here, that you have the right team working in the Compass department?
Okay, so we have made sure that my advisors have gone through some specialist training to be able to be sympathetic and to spot the vulnerable debtor. We actually had step change in this morning, providing some training for us along this line. And I know that Chabu at Christians Against Poverty has also offered us some training as well. So there's lots of opportunity for the staff in the Compass team to receive the correct sort of training in order to be able to deal with this type of debtor.
Okay, thank you. I guess to both of you, in fact. Another question is, do you think cross-industry cooperation is a sign of the future?
I certainly hope so, really. I think it's definitely needed. I think, we're all in this together, and the more that we can interact, communicate, use each other, ultimately, all that we are doing, no matter what kind of sector you're in at the moment, it's all client related. So as long as it helps and benefits and provides the very best to our clients, our customers out there, that is the main thing.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's part of what we've been doing in the run up to CRS Compass, is actually visiting a lot of the DMCs, and actually Step Change and Christians Against Poverty were the first that Paul and myself went to visit, in order to grow these relationships and to build upon them, because as Chabu has rightly said, we are in this together, and now that we're all governed by the same body, the FCA, we all have the same end purpose really, and that is to treat the customer fairly, so to treat the debtor fairly and to point them and give them the right advice that they need that's best for them.
And another question is, this is to Val really, what feedback from those who use this service have we had, the Compass service, before it's been launched to the as Compass?
We've had some excellent feedback. Because my team is quite established now with the processes, we can be quite efficient with what how we're processing the debt management plans. We don't have any backlogs in our team, so therefore we're adhering to SLAs. I mentioned in the webinar as well that some of our clients have found of great benefit the fact that we do have a collections process, that debts, instead of falling into a black hole, so if the debt management plan doesn't work or they lose contact with the debt management agency, we have the ability here to actually place the debt back into normal collections, and a lot of our clients have found that very beneficial.
Okay. Now, we've been having a number of discussions with prospects for Compass. Val, what are some of the frustrations that we're hearing from clients, and why they're suggesting that this is a solution that they're really looking for?
Sorry, Paul, could you just repeat that question again, please?
Hang on. I think what the question is being asked, if I can just find it again, is what are we doing as an organisation? Do we think seeing our prospects and customers that their frustrations are, and why we think Compass actually will marry with what they're trying to achieve as a business long term?
Because I think that the process of dealing with that are on a debt management plan can be very timely, can be a long drawn out process, and I think what we're finding with a lot of our creditors, or our customers if you like, is that they haven't actually got processes built in place to deal with this sort of problem, and what is happening is it's just creating backlogs, and they're having to pull resource off from other areas or pull resource from places that they weren't specifically recruited for in order to handle this problem.
Yeah. Okay. Let me just see if there are any more. I think a lot of them are kind of connected. Some of them are just kind of operational. How do we inform the creditor that we are involved? That
we're involved in it is that we would actually well, we've got various communications, to be honest with you, but our main one is to write out with a standard letter to explain the service that we're doing. And indeed, that's how we would communicate via our with our DMCs as well. We have some good relationships with the top 10 DMCs, and so therefore we communicate mainly electronically with them. Like I said before in the presentation, DPAs in place with them as well. So we've got free-flowing channels, if you like, between us and the DMCs and us and the creditors.
Okay, thank you. And actually, a question that hasn't been asked, but I'd like to ask you, Chabu, knowing what you know now about this launch of Compass and the emphasis behind why we're launching it, how do you feel that both our businesses can work with this kind of operation, really?
I think it's exciting to find so many as we're kind of out visiting the like ourselves and various others. It's exciting to find organisations not just talking about vulnerable customers, but wanting to do something about it. So it's exciting that kind of a service like that has been launched, and ultimately, any service that aims to put the customer first, that aims to provide clarity and simplicity process-wise for customers, I think will be a huge success. And with Christians Against Poverty, we're very much looking forward to working closer together with you through this service to provide the very best to some of our to a lot of our clients out there. Just to let you know something about our client base. For our customers, the average income for our customers is around 12,800, average debt around 12,400. You're talking about 47% of clients going through an insolvency option. So this service that will help those specific vulnerable clients out there is going to be kind of hugely beneficial. And we're excited to work closer together with CRS.
Yeah,
tremendous. Well, thank you very much.
Thank you.
No more questions for me, Chabu. One of the things I'm conscious of is let's maybe verbalise your web address.
Yes. My web address. My email address. A long name. Here we go. It's CHABUCHIPAMPE@capuk.org. That's CHABUCHIPAMPE@capuk.org. If you're interested in finding out how we can help kind of your organisation with vulnerable clients, please drop me an email. Would love to partner with you, work closer together. As I said, we're all in this together. So the more we can have those channels of communication open, the better service I'm sure we will continue to provide for our customers and clients alike.
Fantastic, thank you, Chabu. And on a similar note, for those creditors out there that want to understand more about CRS Compass, please email us at info@crscompass.co.uk or telephone us on 01422 324 514. Thank you all. It's been a very engaging discussion, and have a great day.
Yes.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for listening.